It's another beautiful Sunday afternoon. This is Robin Minds. Welcome. My name is obidientmovement, and thanks a lot for joining us. Still trying to figure out what's happening with the floods ravaging the country. The news seems to be fading away from the headlines and from the front pages of newspapers. But of course, I think we all agree that a lot of Nigerians across several states are still going through it with regards to trying to pick up the pieces of their lives. We're hearing reports that in several states, the water still seems to be there with them, even if the rains may have gone down a bit, hoping that the federal authorities and the local authorities are doing the best they can. Anything that has claimed over 600 lives should be rightfully so a national disaster. And we are sending out our commiserations to all of those who have been affected by this. Politics is still in the air, of course. There's a lot happening across the country. The presidential elections, or the general elections, I beg your pardon, are coming up in February next year. So we'll continue to build up to that because a lot of the candidates are trying to sell their viewpoints. Manifestos are coming out. Some are being withdrawn. So we're just going to be dissecting all of that and continue to interrogate our candidates and their surrogates. Hopefully we have a lot more answer and more clarity before the elections come in February 2023. We're going to be kicking off the show today talking about the elections. Of course, politics is always very interesting for us. And we're joined now by the youth leader of the All Progressives Congress, APC, Dayo Israel. Thanks a lot for joining us, Dayo. How are you doing?
Hey, it's been a while. How have you been?
Very well, thank you. It's been a while. Thanks for joining us.
Look sharp as usual.
Thank you. Just to kick things off, first of all, there's a lot happening. I know the presidential candidate of the APC was at the held a private session, pretty much, with members of the private sector, where there was a bit of a Q&A and all of that. But there's been a lot of controversy as well as to why he seems to be avoiding the ones he's been invited to and decided to have one on his own. Do you think that reflects well on what he's trying to sell, where he seems to be well, on the good side, you can say curating his own story by himself, but at the same time, on the other hand, it looks like he's avoiding sort of the public scrutiny or platforms where he can't control. How would you assess how things went down this past week?
Ebuka, thank you very much for the question, and it's great to be back on Robin Mind. First, you would know that Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu is not just eloquent, but someone with a lot of vast experience. The scripture, I'm a Christian, so I like to refer to the scripture, says that there's a time and a season for everything under the sun. And so there's a time to withdraw and there's a time to engage. In other words, while Asiwaju has been on the road doing a lot at this period, there's also going to be the time where, I have no doubt, he would engage with the media. He would have live chats. He would engage more with sit-down town halls with young people. But in politics and in election, there's strategies and their approaches. And if you put all your energies out too early, you're going to burn out. The election, the campaign period hasn't really started. We're hoping that we would have a very strong, if you look at the calendar, we're looking at technically a 90 days campaign period where a lot of engagement will happen. You'll probably have, media town hall or media chats and all of that. And Nigerians have 4 years, by the grace of God, of presidential town hall meeting to have with him. So I think, what he's doing now is to engage critical stakeholders before then going to the general public. Because as you know, society is based on critical sectors. You have the private sector, you have the faith-based sector. It's began by sitting down with religious leaders in Abuja, and I think they had another one with the private sector in Kano. He's also come to Lagos in the south to meet with the private sector. He's having engagement with various other stakeholders, going to be meeting, I'm sure, with the creative industry, with manufacturing, and with a lot of sector. And I'm sure that in due season, he will be able to come on those platforms that you're talking about. But the event was a fantastic one. He was able to show the kind of leadership that is going to be providing to Nigerians. He was able to show that he's going to be an engaging leader, an interactive leader, and a leader that is going to leverage on the strength and the energies of young Nigerians. You saw on the platform with him, Asiwaju is not coming out to say he's the man that knows it all or is the only one that can fix Nigeria's problem. His antecedent has always been a man that can drive energy and productivity of talent and bring them into public office. And that's what he did as commissioner in Lagos State. He brought in Yemi Osinbajo, who is vice president today. He brought in Rajiv Fashola, who is minister. He brought in Lai Mohammed, they brought in Aregbesola, a lot of them come on the team, work with him to be able to transform Lagos. And, you know, that's what is shown at the summit, at the event as well.
I mean, I hear you there, but it sounds all too familiar when you say he doesn't need to talk to us now. We have 4 years to interrogate him. I don't think Nigerians are ready to go through that again. But that's besides the point. I just wanted to point that out. Let me put the question. Sorry, I just wanted to clear that out. That we have been there before, and I don't think Nigerians want to go through that again. But just to be clear, he seems to be avoiding, like I say, certain platforms. The Lagos Chamber of Commerce, he had accepted to attend one, and then he decided to decline. Why did that invitation not go through? Why did that event get cancelled in particular?
So you would realize that in election period, you're running for presidency, you're juggling between a lot of itinerary, a lot of engagement, a lot of platforms that offer you solutions. And while you would like to accept and be there for everybody and be everywhere, it really has to prioritize what's really the key thing at this period. Because while you're talking about the Chamber of Commerce, there are a lot of other critical stakeholders who are, you know, and other activities that demands his time and his attention. And I'm sure that he would also be able to look as things begin to progress on how to begin to engage. But at the same time, he's traveling around. One of the other things he's also leveraging on is in delegating. You know, one thing that we don't do a lot in Africa is to engage and the energies of other people, stakeholders on our team. But he's able to say, okay, you know what, Vice President candidate, you two go and represent me here. Even I, as young as I am, I've had the privilege of going to representing at a town hall meeting with other young people. So he's also doing that and also be able to attend the events that he can. What is critical is that he's making himself available, but he cannot be in the 36 states at the same time. And I'm sure that as a campaign, if you look at the calendar, it's going to be going across the country. And the bottom line at this period also is about vote. So you want to also, you know, prioritize and say, where is my presence most needed at this period that can also deliver the vote? Because for politicians and for election, your critical decision really is vote. But at the same time, shedding is one thing. So, you know, if you look at the schedule, you will see that there's going to be some bit of sector stakeholders engagement that would continue to happen.
Okay. You mentioned earlier, you know, that he's never said that he's the best man for the job or the perfect man for the job. He's going to fix everything. And I'm not quoting you directly there. But I want to quote you now on something you tweeted this past week saying, you know, that whether Nigerians like it or not, Tinubu will be our president. Whatever you insinuated, because you've gone on to try and explain what you meant. But you see how that came across as you saying, you know, to hell with you guys, this is what is going to happen. Are you not supposed to be in a position where you are courting, but you're supposed to be in a position where you're courting votes? Did that come across as that to you?
So let me explain what it is. But of course, this is election period. So everything that comes from Tinubu's camp, people misread it, they maximize this, they interrupt, they you know, and we know those people who are doing this. It's a particular sector of people who have chosen to be violent in their approach, who have chosen to intimidate and to harass voters and Nigerians for their choice. So nobody has a monopoly of decisions or to support a candidate. You don't come at everybody who chooses to support Tinubu and call the person an alert and call the person a madman and call the person selfish and say the person is after money or self-interest. Why are we supporting a old man? Why are we so? You come and say all of these different things. And they are the people I'm addressing. And I'm saying to them, despite the harassment, despite the intimidation, despite everything they are doing to make people feel emotionally blackmailed, not to publicly support that. You know, I'm traveling across the country. I'm currently in Enugu. I'm meeting people who are saying, we love Ashwadi, we support it. But we don't want all these trolls on social media to come and attack us and to come and, you know, begin to tweet at us and harass our family and loved ones. There's a lady, one of our young supporters in Anambra State, at Anambra, for the last 48 hours, they've been accusing her, attacking her, blackmailing her family, calling her family in the village. You don't have the monopoly of violence. We're not going to get violent with you. But I'm saying to all of those who have chosen to intimidate Nigerians, who are going to vote for Ashwadi Bola Ahmed Tinubu, that you will not intimidate our people to silence. People will publicly come on every platform and on social media, and they will support Ashwadi Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And I have met thousands and millions of Nigerians who are ready to support and vote for him in this election. And I have no doubt that based on the popular vote of Nigerians, based on the choice of Nigerians looking at his antecedent and his credibility, they will support him by the grace of the Almighty God to become the next president. We're not sitting now. We're not saying we have any powers. I've traveled to 10 states already. I just came in from Plateau yesterday. Before then, I was in Adamawa. I was in 8 local governments in Adamawa. I was in Demsa, Numan, Yola North, Yola South. I was in Giri. I was in Kufure. Before then, I was in Sokoto, Katsina, sorry. You know, Jigawa, why? Mobilizing in the grassroots.
So I just wanted to ask you there. I get, like I said, you've explained your points, but I just wanted to say...
Force Bola Tinubu on Nigeria. We're saying that we're going to get people to vote for Bola Tinubu. We're going to get our hands clean and do the work. And by the grace of God, God help, you know, he will become the next president of Nigeria, despite the intimidation and the harassment. And these guys have got to stop intimidating progressives. It has to stop. We will not back down no matter your intimidation.
I completely agree with you. I don't think political, campaign season should degenerate to any level. But considering your position, do you see there's nothing wrong with your phrasing there?
My phrasing is either you like it, I'm talking to a specific audience.
You tweeted generally, so anybody could have said it. So I just wanted to be sure. But if you're standing by it, that's fine. I just wanted to be sure that you're okay.
I'm standing to say that, but it should not be misinterpreted to say that we're going to get Asiwaju into office by force. No, we're going to do the work. I'm doing the work. Nigerians, thousands and millions of us are doing the work. I have about 3 events in Enugu alone today. People are all over the country. Kashim Shettima was in Plateau yesterday. Asiwaju is traveling. His wife is traveling. Sheikh Tinubu is holding rallies in Lagos. We're all doing the work. We will do our best. Buhari is going to get on the campaign trail. We will walk the walk to ensure that Nigerians can see that the effort of the administration to be able to improve the life of Nigerians, we may not be where we want to be, and I'm going to accept with every Nigerian. The reality is that we're not where we want to be. But at the same time, if you look at all the candidates who are contesting for this office, Asiwaju Bola Tinubu is the only person, into my opinion, and to the opinion of millions of Nigerians, who has the will, the political will to take tough decisions in the interest of the people. To ensure, look at what he has done in his leadership approach, in engaging people, in bringing up the best talent and holding them accountable. And it is that leadership that has continued to deliver for Lagos. Lagos may not be like Dubai, but the reality is that even New York has its own slum, has its own ghetto, every society has. But Lagos is moving. By the end of December, we're going to have a green line, I think it was a red line by Jide Sanwo-Olu in Lagos. We're going to have more infrastructure development.
We're not campaigning for Lagos, so let's just move on very quickly. Sorry.
In Lagos.
All right, I hear you. I mean, I just wanted to be sure that you stood by your statement and you're saying you're standing by it. Let's quickly go in now, because the manifesto of the presidential candidates of your party is out. And something that jumped at me was the fact that he talked about, making sure that there's more export and less import to strengthen both the Naira and our way of life. And those are 2 very key things today for a lot of Nigerians. We're seeing the Naira literally on a free fall. Still under an APC government. So the wonder for a lot of people is, why should I retain this party that has done this to the Naira? And secondly, the how has always been the question. How is export supposed to be improved? How is this going to happen?
So it's easy for people to say, oh, it's the same APC, it's the same APC. But I'm going to say that we're not just talking about the party. The party is a platform. The individual of Asiwaju Bola Tinubu is what is also on the table right now. The individual, his personality as an achiever, as a global change maker, as someone who has a passion for delivering results. When he was governor in Lagos, he set a master plan for Lagos. This is what we want Lagos to become by 2030. Lagos has not fully developed in its full potential.
Dio, I'm sorry. Dio, sorry. You keep going back to Lagos. We're talking about how, from 2023, if he becomes president, how does he fix this export problem we have?
So the first thing that is on the table is the integrity and the capacity. And so why am I saying that? He's bringing a leadership that will get the buy-in of critical stakeholders to be able to make decisions that would help to grow the Naira. That's one. One of the things they talked about in that manifesto is to export more and import less. Yes, we have begun the journey under President Muhammadu Buhari, investment in agriculture. But one of the things he's going to do, for example, is to increase the arable land in Nigeria from 35% to 65% by investing in agriculture, expanding on the anchor borrower program, ensuring that more young people can drive. They make jokes about this Agbado economy and all of that. But the reality is that these are even commodities on the stock market. Corn is a major commodity. How do we improve the route to market for our product? How do we ensure that our farmers get more support? And those are the things that Ashwaji wants to put in place. Of course, it's going to also modernize and expand our agric production to boost exports and reserves. It's going to provide irrigation to support farmers through PPP. So the idea is that with all of these things, I'm partnering with development agencies, partnering with international organizations, partnering with the private sector, we'll be able to introduce programs and projects that would help Nigerian farmers and other Nigerian producers to be able to, the very Administration is already doing it at a foundational level. Ashwaji Bola Tinubu will do it at a larger scale, built on that foundational level of investment in agriculture to ensure that we can export more. Then also as Nigerians, we also have to begin to change our dependency on foreign products. Yes, there's nothing wrong in, everybody buys foreign. Even in the UK, the US, they also import and export from China and other parts of the world. But we're also going to ensure that we can improve the quality of products being produced in this country that are now fit for export. Our palm oils, our cassavas, our cocoa, and all of that, to ensure that the more we can put out of this country, the more we can bring in foreign currency in, and the more we can boost our foreign reserves and the economy.
All right, Dayo. I think we might be joined in Abuja now, if I'm correct, by Anthony Ehilebo. Anthony, if you're there, how are you doing? Okay, Anthony is not with us here. Let me still stick with you, Dayo. Very quickly now, because you started your statement there. Dayo, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you very
clearly. Yeah. You started your statement there saying you're focusing more on the individual. And, this is something that's confusing a lot of people. Are you dissociating this campaign from the achievements, which a lot of you have touted, of this government? Because it almost seems like, a lot of the campaign says, APC has built infrastructure. You want to take that. But when the losses are being mentioned, the dissociation happens. Are you saying that you only want to attach yourself to the APC government currently in power when the achievements are listed?
Ebuka, give me 2 minutes to make an analogy. When you're building a skyscraper, you first go, you do a blinding, and you excavate all the muds and all the dirty on the ground. Then you do your blinding, then you bring the irons and you do your ironing and you tie them together and you do your carpentry work. Then you cast the foundation. That's one process. When you finish casting the foundation, you then fill the foundation with filling. When it is full, you then set another set of iron and you cast it, it becomes a German floor, particularly in the watery area. You do your raft. But when you're doing all of that, particularly in a watery area, in a very bad area, nobody sees what you're building. Most of the time, you even have a fence surrounding the work. You understand? You have a fence surrounding the work. But the reality is that nobody sees that work you're doing. They just say you're investing a lot of sand, a lot of cement, and a lot of stuff in the ground. But just shortly after, 28 days, after you have been able to do the German floor, you begin to set your block. When you set your block, you begin to cut out the window. Then you do your lintel. When you do your lintel, they begin to see a bit of the building. And then, of course, you set more blocks and you do your decking. Maybe you're going to, another floor. You do your decking. You give it another 28 days. Then you put another block set there. What am I trying to say? What Muhammadu Buhari has done is to come into a Nigeria that has been bastardized and destroyed by some people, many of whom are now coming today to say they are saints in Nigeria today. They have really, for 16 years, taken this country into a situation that it needs a recovery. It needs a
Dayo, sorry, because Dayo, we need to go on a break because I asked. Sorry, we need to go on a break because I asked a very specific question and you're taking me on a building tour. So we're going to go on a break. We need to go on a break. We need to go on a break. We'll come back and continue this conversation. Please stay with us. Welcome back. We're going to continue our conversation on politics, and we're joined now in Abuja by PDP member Anthony Ehilebo. Thanks a lot for joining us, Tony. Can you hear me? Anthony, can you hear me? Anthony, I think you are muted. You need to unmute your mic. Can you hear me?
Oh, thank you very much, Ibuka. I can hear you now. Yes, I was muted.
Very well done.
I'm not actually in Abuja. I'm in the United Kingdom on holiday.
I apologize.
But,
sorry to disturb your holiday. Sorry to disturb your holiday. Very quickly now. Yes, we're just trying to ask this question very quickly because we're almost out of time. You know, your candidate, the presidential candidate of the PDP, has been doing quite a bit, you know, internationally and locally. And he, like virtually every other candidate, has a lot of baggage going into this contest. But his own baggage seems to have been self-inflicted by calling himself the unifier. But we don't seem to be seeing that even in his party. I know this has been talked about and thrashed, but it's still not been answered convincingly. The governors are divided. The party is divided. He's not been able to unify the PDP. How do we put faith in him to say, come next year, you're going to do this for the country?
Well, I think it's quite erroneous to, Ebuka, at this point in time, to suggest that my presidential candidate is the chairman of the party. He's not the leader of the party.
But he called himself the unifier.
It's an internal party issue. He still has a leader, and the leader of the party is the chairman of the party. So if there's anybody that has been unable to unify the party itself, and we must make this clearance early enough that he's coming to be the president of Nigeria, not the president of the People's Democratic Party. He's more focused on Nigeria and has left the unification to the national chairman. I do believe that people have the right to dissentment, and I don't think in assessing that particular situation, I can fault that presidential candidate, Vice President Atiku Abubakar, because he's done his best. Several times he's made efforts to, but you can only force a horse to a stream. You can force it to drink. What we are more concerned about is larger outlook to Nigeria and unifying Nigeria and building. He's seen himself as a pan-Nigeria. And I think the first sort of lesson we learn in life is the unified stand any family takes, where you are taught that lesson with one single broom and a whole broom together that you cannot break if that broom is all together. And I think that message is what he has set out to resonate with people. But however, I think a core of our message is more to recover where Nigeria has been in the past with the PDP. Take us back to that stage. Take us back to 2015. I'm sure everybody in Nigeria, including Dyer, who has now turned to a building specialist, such a brilliant young man, by the way, but unfortunately, when you have to defend the indefensible, you assume forms that are not normal to human beings.
Anthony, if you can just stick with the question so that we don't get distracted.
No, we're not deviating because you've asked a question about unification, and I've explained in a broad term that the presidential candidate of the party, his mandate is to unify the country, not to unify PDP.
Okay. Let's leave it at that. But I mean, the truth is, if you have a big task, I think they always say, you know, from how your journey starts is how we see the journey is going to be. If we're seeing that, you know, where he's coming from seems to be in disarray, it's only right that people will be worried, you know, about things going forward. But let's leave that and just very quickly talk on the fact that, you know, security is the biggest issue in the country today. Maybe second to the economy, if at all, considering what's happening with the Naira these days. He seems to have said that, you know, he has a plan to reform, you know, our national security architecture. The how is always the question for a lot of people. A lot of these promises have been made in the past. We've heard the president tell us he was going to deploy, you know, the headquarters of the army to the center where Boko Haram was. None of that has worked. We've heard so many promises. So the how is what people want to know. How is this going to happen?
Okay, so first of all, the president in waiting, if I call him that, Vice President Atiku Abubakar, His Excellency, had said this in an interview with Arise. He had alluded to the Nigerian situation, first of all, as one that you don't see a unification drive when you in appointments, an attempt to bring together the entire country in sharing the responsibility of providing security. A major thrust of Alhaji Atiku Abubakar's focus has been restructuring. And when we talk about restructuring, we go down to providing the sort of security architecture he's looking at, where security is taken from the local governments. It's very emphatic that they will provide strata police, where you have local government, state, regional, and then a national police, devolving powers. He's looking at employing, at the very minimum, 1 million policemen. And someone asked the question, how, I think it was in a VOA interview, someone asked the question, how are you going to do this? I said, listen, if I start employing these policemen from the local governments, it then means that face-to-face intervention between crime solving, crime detecting is much faster, because people who understand an environment don't need to come from Potiskum to go to Okija and try to solve Okija problems. You have people who must understand their environment, who are stakeholders in the security of that environment. Because, you know, for Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, he's coming from a place of experience. He has tried to solve this problem before of security, and he's found that the best way to solve security problems is localizing the detection, the prosecution, and intelligence gathering for detection and crime prevention. And this has worked in almost every developed society that one finds himself. You find that the local community policing has delivered on security, and that frees up the Nigerian army today. The Nigerian military is stationed in over 36 states of the Federation.
All right,
and that's
Tony.
stretching them thin.
All right, so we're very sorry we have to cut you short there, but we're going to have to get you back when you're done with your holiday and have a proper conversation. Thanks a lot for joining us, man, and enjoy your holiday. And of course, to Dayo Israel, many thanks as well for joining us on the show today.
Thank you so much.
We're going to take a quick break now and be back. Please stay with us.
Sorry.